Alright, I've got a quick game for you. It's in my Object 140 on the map, Cliff, and we're in 4 times speed. Not that fast. Alright, we're in our Object 140 on Cliff, and this game is going to play out as a lot of games do, and you're going to notice a huge portion of our team decides to sit on the 1-2 line. Now, if you look at our lineup and their lineup, we don't really have a lineup that you could predict is going to camp on the 1-2 line, but lo and behold, like obviously all our TDs are going to go, but you can see we've got a bunch of tanks that really shouldn't be going to the 1-2 line, going to the 1-2 line, and you can see that on the map right here because like look in this section right here. Everyone's there. So how do you respond to a situation like this? Well, if you look at the map, we've got 4 tanks roughly that you can see climbing up the ramp going to the hill. And then if you looked at their lineup, they've got a bunch of mediums, like tanks that you would expect to take the mid. So what happens in this type of situation, if they're going to have a lot more numbers going to the mid, like the upper part of Cliff, you can't take the mid, because what's going to happen is you're going to be overwhelmed in the 9 line and they're just going to wrap around like so. So how do you counter that? Well, that's what this replay is here to show you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sit up at J at a TD position. Generally speaking, if you're dealing with this type of situation on any map, look for a tank destroyer position. And what's going to happen is they're going to be able to push through the 9 line, just like I said. And this position is actually going to give me cross shots on them. And I'm going to fast forward it because it's just one position. Like, it makes the game work. And you can see, like, I'm shooting from here like you would if you were sniping. They've got a lot more tanks who've gone up to our area. If you just watch the map, you can see they're all going to push through. And what happens is they've got a Super Conqueror and an E100 who are going to push through the 9 line. And, you know, we're vastly outnumbered in this context. So what I have to do is I have to sit here. I have to wait for them to push through. Eventually that's going to happen. You can see I should use HE to shoot down that house there because, like, why the fuck not? There's an IS-7 poking in the mid. We're basically just sniping. Eventually, the Super Conqueror and the E100 are going to push through. And you can see this is when this position starts to become useful. So this is the type of play that's really hard to make because I was useless for basically 2.5 minutes. I'm starting to get shots off. You can see an E100's pushing in. Now, this is a play that I've never made before. I don't really sit back here. And so you're going to see I have to deal with a lot of the challenges associated with being here. There's an Object 430 pushing in. I'm in a 140. And, you know, I can't really pen the front of the 430 without gold, so I do that. And as he pushes in, he's actually going to he's going to play it exactly as he should. As enemy teammates will push into this line, they try to get into this hull down, and they try to get into this hull down. You can see the 430 as he's pushing up on the map is actually trying to make that happen. And so here I am effectively having to deal with 4 tanks pushing into me by taking this TD position. And even though this is a rough position to be in because it's a 4v1, it's a lot better than how it would have been if I was sitting and, you know, F6, which is a lot harder to defend, as opposed to this position where I've got this rock here that I can dance around as they're pushing into me. So we know they've got a Progetto over here and a Super Conqueror, and so I have to be kind of careful when I'm making this type of poke, because the second I get lit, I can assume these guys are going to shoot at me, and you can see Super Conqueror's right there ready for me to fire, like waiting for me to poke. So going to put a shot into him, and we're just playing this cover like you would, and eventually what's going to happen is, well, you can see they're just going to continue to push into me, and that's going to give me a lot of damage, and eventually they're going to have to start actually falling back. They're going to have to give this up. Now, this game was a 1 because I was, like, we won partly, look at this fucking replay shit, there's no damage counter or anything, but this game ended up being a win. It's not entirely my fault, but what happened here was I was able to stall 4 tanks, and that gave us time to kill their entire enemy team that was on the 1-2 line, and luckily our team on the 1-2 line made a push. You can see that was, like, often if you have mediums camping on the 1-2 line, they're going to push through, but if the enemy team had controlled this upper ridge, eventually they're going to overwhelm me if they don't play, like, dumbly. But if they had the ridge, our team would have done a lot worse because it's, like, super easy for them to win once they kind of control G4, basically. And, like, you would never take your tank to G4, but controlling that's relevant. So here I am. We're just playing this position. It's hull down. Honestly, I can fast forward through this. I just wanted to show you this position, this play in this context, because I thought it was really well made, if I say so myself, and you can see I get a lot of shots into people. The thing is, they have to push into a tank destroyer position, so it's like, if you can put yourself in a situation like this, it's ideal, because you can just use the DPM of your gun, and, you know, they just kind of drove into me. So that's the game. We should win this one. There's a Progetto who's about to die. I get a lot of damage on him at the end, and we'll go take a look at the end plates, see how the rest of my team did, and that'll be the video. Probably not the most fascinating game out there, but if you're having trouble with Cliff, like, this type of play will definitely work for you. It put me top place on my team. I got 4,537 damage for it, and I feel like I carried, like, I didn't carry single-handedly, but I feel like I was a major component to our team winning in that one. So, like, no one else did really above 3k, so, like, obviously I got a lot of damage. That's because I put myself in front of a lot of enemies, and you can see a lot of the enemies who pushed into me, like, this E100 here, the Super Conqueror, didn't do very well, that's because my position kind of prevented them from farming our tanks in the mid. So that's the game. I thought I played really decently. Obviously, I lost a lot of credits because I shot a lot of gold, but 140 in tier 10 games, what can you do? That's the video. If you want to see more, be sure to hit the like and the subscribe button, and I hope to see you around. Later, guys. Bye-bye.